How much are you willing to pay for a VR headset? For many of you, I imagine it's around $300 to $500 if MetaQuest can mean anything. And believe me, I get it. There was a time when I felt the very same. I mean, hell, when was the last time I used half of those features that you actually own in your Quest 3? Or any feature besides gaming for that matter. So that begs the question, how much would you actually pay for something that you would actually use in VR? A little while ago, I heard rumblings about something called the Valve Deckard, and before some of you sigh, yes, this is entirely speculation and rumor mill nonsense, but it paints a very interesting picture for what Valve might be cooking, especially for the future of all VR, and handhelds for that matter, but we'll get to that in a minute. Everything from eye tracking to controllers with more buttons, and a device that could play your entire library of games in full 3D and more. This is all to say, it got me thinking about that question I just posed. What I would be willing to pay for the coveted Valve Deckard, and the possible ecosystem that they're building out. I'm starting to kind of see their vision, a vision that I want to kind of exist in. So, without further ado, let me see if I can show you that very same vision. Also, quick TLDR, everything is subject to change. This is just a little fun concept. The product could literally never exist, but it is just a fun thought experiment at the end of the day. And a little bit of hope in a barren desert of VR news. Yeah, let's start off here. What if there was a headset that didn't really need to make any money back? The reason why is because it was trying to push you into an ecosystem where they make all the money. Oh, I don't know, like an ecosystem like Steam where they make 90% of the profit through game sales. So it's possible that they'd be willing to sell their device at a really low profit margin, giving you the maximum amount of features for the lowest possible cost, because they're going to upsell you when it comes to game sales. Or you can just wait for Steam sales to happen and pay like $2, but I digress. Yeah, so let's operate from that viewpoint of a product that gives as many features as possible for the lowest possible cost. And let's set the price point somewhere where people are already willing to pay, around $350 to $500 USD, aka the Quest pricing. But what if we took out the onboard processing that exists within the Quest 3 and replaced it for eye tracking? It'd still probably end up being around $500, but would you be willing to pay for it? Something that has micro OLED displays and eye tracking to boot, as well as a decent mic and decent sound? Probably, right? But wait, what if I can convince you that standalone or onboard processing actually might be something you want as a PC VR player? What if that standalone processor in your VR headset could actually be used to run some of the game's bandwidth, and not just be relegated to running an individual game, allowing you to get more performance out of the games you love, utilizing both chipset or compute. And I think it's entirely possible that the headset could run things like YouTube, Spotify, and all the other things that are taking up your computer's resources to run said games. What if we build off of that idea of not only using your standalone VR headset to help power the experiences you love, but also your PC? But who's to say you couldn't do the very same thing with, oh, I don't know, a Steam Deck? Or maybe a possible Valve console that is essentially a tiny PC in the middle of your room. Imagine a world that you have 3 products that you use for various different things. A PC, a Steam Deck, and maybe even a VR headset. All helping you render, handle compute, as well as performance in the games you love so dear. It's a wee bit far-fetched, but if anyone can make a crack at compatibility, it's the people who are literally in every PC anyway and also dealing with optimization within Steam. But the beauty in all of this, of a Steam Deck being utilized, as well as Valve's own proprietary console-like tiny PC in your living room, is that it would increase the barrier of entry for high-quality PC VR, while also making it easier to optimize, because if it can run on the Steam Deck, it can probably run on your VR headset, and if it can run on the VR headset, it probably can also run on your PC. But here's where things get really good, and answers the question that I'm sure some of you are asking. If I have a Steam Deck, why would I get a VR headset? If you happen to get this possible Valve Deckard that has eye tracking, it likely has access to something called foveated rendering, which would improve the performance of your Steam Deck, as well as your gaming PC, only rendering what your eyes are looking at, or increasing the pixel density of what your eyes are looking at. So there's more than one reason to get this said device. If you really like the Steam Deck, fantastic, but you could play on a giant monitor rather than a tiny little thing. And it could even boost the performance of your said Steam Deck, only rendering what your eyes are looking at. This is all pie in the sky type of things, but it kind of makes sense in my head. I'm sure people will crush my dreams in the comments, but let's keep going. Back to our original question, would you be more interested in standalone if it's stacked on your already possessed compute power that you have either in your Steam Deck or your PC? To me, if it does even half of that, Actually, yeah, let's throw an extra $150 on our base price of $500 for the end price being $650. But wait, wouldn't it be cool if your headset had, oh, I don't know, better controllers with more buttons and possibly better ergonomics? And just to get kind of frisky, let's throw in some good old face tracking to boot. Because at the end of the day, there's an incentive for Valve to put as much tech in this as possible so that designers and devs can make programs and software for it. And frankly, if there's one thing that's proven to be very, very lucrative, it's appealing to the social aspect of VR, i.e. VR chat and the like. And being able to see your friends smile when you're doing a social experience is worth a little bit of cheddar, I think. And well, controllers aren't cheap, and nor is that face tracking probably, so let's throw in another $150 on top of all that. And now we've come to a whopping $800. Whew, that's a lot of cheddar. But here's where it gets me. And that thing is something that frankly Meta has utterly dropped the ball on, at least for me. Let me ask you this. What feature would entice you? Hell, even make you spend just a little bit more money. A feature that has absolutely enchanted me and many others who have played with it is the UE Flat to VR engine. The ability to essentially experience the games we love so much in full-fledged 3D depthed VR. So how fantastic would it be to play the games we love so dear in full 3D with perceived depth and the whole nines, to look up at a beautiful mountaintop or a horizon and actually perceive that you're there. Not like you're looking at a flat screen, but you're looking into a window into that world. And not to mention, what if you had a giant, super wide and curved display acting as a window into that world? Would just be breathtaking. Can you imagine playing God of War and seeing those beautiful vistas, or even Horizon Zero Dawn as you climb to the top of a mountaintop and being in awe as you see everything? I think it would give so much more spark to the games we love so much, and going back and playing those said games. I think a lot of us have this problem. We buy a couple games on Steam sales that are a couple years old, and they just get thrown into the list of things to play eventually. But if there was a better way to experience those, even if it was a game that we already experienced on console, like, I don't know, full-fledged 3D depth mapping would be so sick. And this kind of software is already being worked on, and apparently some of that software is being worked on by Valve. My point is to only really say that this feature would mean a lot to me, and it would make it more than just a hunk of plastic that sits off to the side whenever I want to play some games to, oh, that thing makes me experience this thing better. Even flat screen games. Hell yeah, you know? For a feature like that, how much would you be willing to pay more on a console? Maybe for some of you it's as much as $10, maybe for you it's $0. For me, honestly, it's a little up there. I think it's a really cool feature that would actually make me want to play VR and play flat screen games on VR. But perhaps if Steam is going to apply all these features in their headset, maybe they should just do it for free, which honestly is pretty fair too. They need to make us want to use the headset, not the other way around. Meta. You really want to do meetings? Let me tell you, you need to do conference. It's so fun. You just got it. The conferences you need to do it. Okay, we're building it. You should be there. Thank you very much. All right, so here's another feature that I think some people would be interested in, but I admit it may not be for everyone. And that idea is, wouldn't it be cool to be able to play your entire Steam library in a headset? And this is the new idea, take it on the go. Yeah, this idea becomes infinitely more interesting if you already have a Steam Deck so that you can kind of possibly utilize the power of either or hopefully both. The idea being, why settle with a tiny screen when you could have a giant screen and you could boost the performance of your Steam Deck via using foveated rendering within your eye-tracked headset. Right? Makes kind of sense. A part of me thinks that these headsets are going to be a little bit bigger, so I think that's always going to be a hard sell, to sell like a big fucking headset that's going to be comfortable to wear for long periods of time, but not look like some sort of weird Dexter's Laboratory, prongs coming out of your head because you're trying to find the pressure points of your head and making it work. Yeah, it probably look a lot, but hey, we're all freaks anyway. Anyways, but there's one thing that I don't think people talk enough about when it comes to this idea of playing your entire Steam library in this headset. The one thing I don't think people mention enough is one feature that I think would actually be kind of a nice feature on top of everything I just mentioned. Do you remember when the Apple Vision Pro first launched and it had a bunch of instances in which this could possibly be used? And one of those said instances was people watching a football game and seeing various stats around the said screen that they're looking at. Well, can you imagine this? You're sitting down and you have an ultra-wide curved monitor, absolutely gorgeous. And the game is running better because of foveated rendering and eye tracking, stuff like that. And it's even easier to navigate because you can simply gesture or look with your eyes to operate the various menus. Fun. But what if you're playing a game like Skyrim and instead of having to pause the game and take yourself out of that experience, what if you have menus floating below you? menus that say, can you drink some potions, maybe apply a different spell, things like that. Maybe you're playing Minecraft and you want to craft something, and maybe you don't want to alt-tab out of the experience or have a menu pop up in your face. Well, if you look down and your eye tracking is going to act as a cursor, you can quickly piece together a diamond axe or whatever you could possibly want. Features like this kind of, to me, make sense. Or, one better, man, you know how annoying HUDs are? HUDs are ass. Well, I hate when I'm playing a game and there's like a giant health bar right in the middle of my screen. Well, what if it was just floating a little bit below your screen, you having full screen real estate? Wouldn't that be even better? Not having a gun counter in your face, so on and so forth. Some people build on this idea a little too much, like the idea of like you turning this into an arcade sim, which sounds kind of fun, where you just pick up like a 3D gun and you're like shooting into a curved monitor that where you're shooting enemies like through a window kind of slit. It kind of makes sense. It sounds fun. I just don't know if it's like 8 hours fun or like it's cool for 2 hours and I kind of get the vibe. You know what I mean? So yeah. But the original idea of having your HUD, your health bar and stuff off of the screen, so instead it can just be wherever you kind of want it to be, or wherever the dev decides to put it, to me sounds like an improvement to the gaming experience, so on and so forth. But alas, enough of that feature. That's something that I think would sweeten the pot for me being like, okay, there's maybe a reason why I would actually choose to wear this headset and actually play my library of games rather than just buy a monitor, so on and so forth. All right, so with all that being said, I feel like we got to address the kind of elephant in the room, which is the optics that Steam would even pursue all of these things. Well, I don't think it would just be Steam. I think it would be them making like a dev kit, essentially, of like tools that they wish devs would tap into and utilize within any software, game, or entertainment medium that they could possibly pursue. But here are a few reasons why I think Steam would be interested in this, or pursuing this, I should say. If Valve is the epicenter of gaming on damn near every PC, would they have an incentive to branch out into another possible pot? And if they're developing a 3D depth / whatever program or algorithm that can turn non-3D things into full-fledged 3D VR experiences, kind of similar to Apple, how they can take a photo and make it a spatial photo, aka a photo with depth and being able to perceive it like a window instead of a flat screen, is it out of the question that Apple would pursue this in regards to spatial experiences, i.e. doing that same thing or using that same program on TV and movies? Perhaps it wouldn't work the same, but I think there's a lot of incentive for Valve to push into this experience because Google and Apple seem to be going full steam ahead as far as developing these products and trying to build out in these spaces. So why wouldn't Steam carve out a place for themselves and create all the features that will be best for devs and designers and programmers and the whole lot to actually be able to create these said experiences? Kind of like creating the iPhone and then followed by the App Store. Well, if you're the App Store, then you're winning a lot. And if you made the iPhone, then you know exactly what you need to give the apps the right functionality to make them succeed. Yeah, leaving an elephant a little bit in the room, the holy grail of answers that we all want to dearly know about the coveted Valve Deckard is this. How much is it actually going to cost? Unfortunately, I have some kind of bad news. I know a lot of people who are really wanting this console to be basically just a Meta Quest 3 without the standalone and with eye tracking, hence why I introed the dollar point at that set point. You see, a little while back, I remember hearing a lot of rumblings about the whole Valve thing and how they were observing the Apple Vision Pro in the VR space in general, and the one takeaway was that Valve really did like that people were willing to spend a little bit more for a headset, i.e. not $800 to $1,000, but instead $4,000 for the Apple Vision Pro. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think they're that crazy to offer $4,000 or put the price tag that high, but I do think you can expect it to be a little higher than not, and it's probably more likely that it's even going to be more than $800. But it's entirely possible that Valve makes two versions, one with all the features that their devs want, but then lowering the pixel density and resolution of said VR lenses. That way you could have one that's like a 2K display, maybe not even micro OLEDs, a little bit beefier, and then you could have a really expensive one with 4K resolution and the whole 9 yards. Apparently swapping out lenses and stuff like that is not actually impossible, but regardless, I do think whatever version you get will probably have all the features that it wants it to have in it. Basically, the lower version selling as many features as possible for devs to be able to create in, eye tracking, hand tracking, that kind of thing, and then the upsell is the really expensive 4K high quality micro OLED displays, which are even now fairly expensive, but there's some rumors that it's getting less expensive, but still. But I think that would make the most people happy, but I have a feeling that it's not going to be the case. I have a feeling it's going to be one unit and not two, but C'est la vie. Back to the question at hand. How much would you be willing to spend on a VR or AR headset? Well, to tell you the truth, after falling down the absolute rabbit hole that is the Valve Deckard and the pounds of copium that I've been inhaling, especially after seeing all of the possible features and people brainstorming about what this could be and what would be worth you actually having in it to make you actually want to spend just a little bit more, unfortunately, I think I'd be willing to spend a pretty penny. For me, anywhere from $800 to $1,200. Now, again, I know that's a lot for some, and I don't have a lot, but I also know that a lot of people are probably saying, well, go a little higher, and we're getting close. So, I don't know. This is the kind of plight that I think everyone's sitting in is, how much? How much am I gonna get wrecked? Just tell me. Give me a ballpark. It'd be so nice if $800, I'd be so fucking happy. $800 just right. Just the right amount of like, okay, I like this medium a lot. If it has all those features, we're bang on. I don't think we'll get very high displays. I think the displays will be micro OLED, but not be anything above crazy spec things. But yes. But this is all kind of a moot point because we're talking about a unicorn, dude. It could be 80 years till Valve wants to release this fucking nightmare thing. Because Valve has terrible timelines, and Valve is like $1 billion company that's making millions every single week, so they don't fucking need to do anything if they don't want. And one more point against the rather high price tag is that the original Valve headset that everyone uses with the cool hand-tracked controllers and such, that use lighthouse tracking and such, all ended up costing roughly around $1,000 with all the boxes that you needed to buy for the tracking, as well as the special controllers that broke constantly, so on and so forth. I could really be getting my ass kicked when it comes to it being significantly more money, but you'd hope that it's not that crazy, and they're willing to sell at a loss. But again, this is utter speculation and just the fun ramblings of a madman. Very excited for something that could possibly never exist. Even if it's all conceptual, it's still a fun concept to play around with in your head. But as cool as all of this sounds, there is still one thing that Valve really needs to solve for this to all even be possible, and is something that Apple has absolutely dropped the ball on, as well as Meta, honestly. And it's something that everyone was yelling at Apple when they were making the Vision Pro, and they didn't listen because they're Apple. And it's this: if you want us to wear these headsets for more than 2 hours, please make them more comfortable. It's insane that I can't. I don't care if we look like a fucking reject from Dexter's Laboratory wearing that weird fucking helmet thing. I don't care. As long as it doesn't fucking make your head want to fall off. It's weird you gotta buy a fucking $80 third-party nightmare thing that costs a lot of fucking money. It's 80% plastic, but they have a little bit of sense to realize maybe we don't put all of the weight on our nose or forehead or fucking back of skull. Maybe we separate some of that. Maybe we deviate some of that pressure. Instead, it's like, no, best I can do, all on your fucking like nose or cheeks, so that you just sag. You just get older as you wear this headset. Great idea. Love it. Nightmare hell. Please fix the comfort thing. It's insane. It feels like we're talking to crazy people. Like, hey, oh, you want to wear it for 18 hours? Well, great. Oh, it feels like a brick on your face? Best we can do is a strap. Best we can do. I hate it. Anyways. Sorry. And I just thought I'd put this in here because there's a 0.1% chance that somebody from Valve will see this. Probably won't be a person who can do anything about it, but you'll see it. And hi, please, for the love of God, add a FOV slider and a built-in stabilization feature to your game preview. Okay, similar to Oculus Mirror. Half of the battle of showcasing how fun your VR experience is simply recording it and it not looking like you're just 2 feet away from the thing that you're looking at. Please make it easier to share your experiences in VR, i.e. games, i.e. movies that you're watching, so on and so forth. Kind of similar to Apple, where you can like record and you see a pretty good outline of what the person is looking at. Please do that, because it is a nightmare to record VR, and we shouldn't have to use third-party software to be able to capture experiences, to show off, to sell said headset and software and video games for free. For love of God, make it so that we can pull back the FOV and add built-in stabilization. Golly. And lastly, I want to ramble at you about a fun interaction I had with one of my wonderful members of my streaming community. I thought it'd be fun to talk about this kind of back and forth that we had, because I feel like a lot of you might be in the same boat. I was talking about the same Valve Deckard and a VR headset and how much people would be willing to spend for it. They were essentially on the lower end of the price spectrum, wanting something around $300 with eye tracking, good quality displays, and decent FPS. A true PC VR enthusiast, which, believe you me, I get. But after much deliberation, no ground was even given. And I get it, believe you me. $800 to $1,200 is not a small bit of change. But it was equally as funny to me when we got on the topic of how said wonderful viewer also bought a $350 Nintendo Switch to play 5 games. And because Nintendo never drops the price of their games, each game probably costing around $60, that brought his grand total of a Nintendo Switch and 5 games to around $600 US. I believe the Switch is cheaper now, but still. I then asked him if he by chance had Steam, and if he had any games that he was planning on playing. And he said he had around 97 games in the queue to of course play. And he also mentioned how many of those games were acquired through Steam sales, paying basically around $3 to $5 for said games. I thought the whole conversation was pretty funny. But I also totally get it, and I don't want to. And I don't want to spend $1,200 either, dude. Yeah. But I do think the Steam ecosystem is fairly good as far as you using it to gain an advantage as far as not dumping a ton of money. But now that you've heard all that, I want to know what you think. How much would you be willing to spend on hardware that checks as many boxes as possible, but also is in an ecosystem like Steam, where so many of us already are, and frankly has a good incentive to be there, i.e. games for cheap and software that largely just kind of works. And the fact that it could benefit by you already being in that ecosystem, like having a Steam Deck and that being able to have compatibility with said headset, it just kind of makes a little bit more sense, at least to me. P.S. I definitely lowballed some of the features. I just wanted to mention that because, yeah, onboard processing, i.e. standalone, is probably not worth $150, but I just, you know. Also, I just want to say, I know I'm part of the problem. I've fallen so deep into the weird rabbit hole of the Valve Deckard and sadly his Bradley Hopium nightmare hell that I've seen so many people persist in for so long. But honestly, dude, it's better than being stuck in the meta hellscape of where we're stuck in standalone and the only feature is fucking Horizon Worlds and shit, and you're just like, I don't like this. I don't want it. I don't want it. I reject it. I feel, yeah. At least to me, it's far more hopeful to exist in a future where Valve utilizes everyone's interests. You like standalone games, fantastic. If you like VR, fantastic. You won't be left behind, and will give incentive to use VR with your already existing library. Not to mention boost your performance so games can be even better. And if they can crack the insane code of compatibility, i.e. your Steam Deck working in conjunction with your VR headset, or your PC working in conjunction with your VR headset, or your weird Valve console-like thing that apparently is coming down the pipeline to work in conjunction with both of those things. And lastly, increases the possible incentive for developers to actually apply some of these features into the games we love. So on and so forth. Love ya, and bye.